Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first episode of Review That, where draft and basketball worlds collide. I'm with the boys today. The first episode is very special. Tyler Metcalf, Corey Tulaba from No Ceilings. This is our pride and joy. We're excited for this show. Fellas, how we doing? Corey, let's start it off with you. How we doing?
Let's go, man. How am I doing? Are you kidding me? It's the first episode of Review That. We got an NBA logo. So that means we're going to be talking NBA hoops, man. You know, for those of you who have been following No Ceilings for the last couple of years, you know that we have been talking college, international, and NBA draft, but we're bringing you a little bit of NBA on this show. We're still going to do the classic No Ceilings. You know, we're going to play the hits and talk about the draft, but we get to talk NBA, so I'm fired up.
Metcalf, we're recording this right before you got a big one tonight, Timberwolves Thunder, but we're going to have some fun here. How you doing, big fella? Are you pumped for this or what? We're going to get a little spicy on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the nerves are a little high with the 1-2 matchup that everyone expected going into the season between the Timberwolves and Thunder. Two of the most electric teams in the NBA, two of the biggest NBA markets in the history of the league. Exactly what everyone anticipated this year. But no, I'm really excited for the show.
There's nothing weird going on with either of those teams, right?
No, nothing. Totally normal
stuff.
Right.
Just checking.
Totally normal. Okay, yeah, I don't know where to go from there. So I'm excited to talk about some NBA stuff, some of these young guys' development, and have a little bit of fun here.
Yeah, well, everyone, this is going to be a fun show. We've been hinting and teasing this for a while. This is our big project with No Ceilings. It's going to be more talk show, little locker room talk, if you want to put it that way. I want to start off right away, fellas. I mean, Rookie of the Year talks. I know it's early. We're reaching 20 games into the season. But boy, there's been some talented guys. Chet Holmgren with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Victor Wembanyama, obviously, everyone's been knowing about the French alien since last year. But they've delivered. They've been very impressive. So I want to hear it to you guys. Like, personally, I don't think it's close. But I think a lot of people are going to pump the narrative one way. But I think Chet has been absolutely sensational. If I was voting, if I had a vote, I can dream one day, I would be picking Chet. Am I crazy? Is it much closer than we think? Because, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. Chet's averaging 18-8. 2.5 assists and 2.3 blocks on 56, 43, 88. Obviously, Metcalf's Timberwolves are probably going to limit those numbers tonight. But being serious, Chet's been unbelievable. What are you guys' thoughts? Corey, I'll start with you.
I don't think you're crazy. I think it's a no-brainer. Personally, Chet has not only been the best rookie, he has been an all-star level player. I think he is 5th or 6th in the league in EPM right now, which is, one of the most highly regarded all-in-one metrics that, the NBA has to offer us. He's been unbelievable on both sides of the ball. I mean, he's everything that we thought he was going to be. I know when we did our dual article on Chet dating back to his draft, we had mentioned that he's going to be kind of like the Luka Doncic of defense. And he's been able to put things together on both sides of the ball that have really just been, something you expect from a seasoned veteran. So, for me, I'm looking at Chet and going, if all stays the same, this is a no-brainer. The Thunder are winning. Not to take anything away from Victor, he's been great, right? But the Spurs are a little bit of a mess, and it's no fault of his own, but circumstance is circumstance. And, it is what it is. Chet is thriving. He's incredibly efficient. He's getting it done on both sides, and the Thunder are one of the best teams in the league. So, personally, I don't know how this would really even be much of a debate other than we're building the hype machine for Victor as a first-year player.
Metcalf, am I crazy, when it comes to awards? I feel like winning has to play a bigger part of the equation. I understand a lot of these guys that are number 1, number 2, number 3 overall picks, your team's usually not good. But if Chet is a guy who is impacting so much with the Thunder, shouldn't that be into consideration with this award? Shouldn't he get more praise? Looking at FanDuel today, Victor's the favorite. He's minus 140 to win Rookie of the Year. Chet's right behind him, minus 105. So it's pretty close, but still, I mean, and like Corey said, we're not taking away from what Victor's been doing. He's averaging almost 19 and 10 with 2.6 blocks. He's right there, but he's shooting 43, 27, 82. So I just think if Chet keeps that efficiency, there's no way he shouldn't win this.
I mean, yeah, but historically, when has winning ever really mattered for Rookie of the Year? I mean,
or any award.
It feels like the LaMelo Ball rookie year
Yeah.
was the first time where everyone was like, "Oh, but the Hornets are better than the Timberwolves." It's like they're rookies; they're on crap teams. That's never really mattered. So why does it all of a sudden matter now? I do think it's important to point out that Chet is in an extraordinarily better situation that really boosts all of his production. He is in the absolutely perfect situation, playing along with a all NBA point guard in SGA, while Victor's having to battle through the Jeremy Sohan point guard experiment, which is an absolute disaster. Then Jalen Williams is on the wing compared to Keldon Johnson. Like I like some of the pieces that the Spurs have, but if we're looking at just situation and how those guys are complemented and being built around, Chet is in a extraordinarily better situation. When we talk about contributing to winning, I mean, the Thunder have a minus, or their net rating is 0.4 points per possession lower when Chet is on the court than when he is off. Wemby is plus 0.3 in the on-off net rating differential. Neither of these guys are really contributing to winning. When we look at Wemby, though, the Spurs' defensive rating is 8.5 points lower when he is on the court than when he is off. It is insane. And when you look at Chet's on-off differential stuff, there's not a whole lot of difference. So I think Chet's incredible. He would have my vote right now, but I don't think it's really that obvious. And what Wemby is doing for the Spurs is pretty remarkable given how awful that team currently is constructed.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. Chet is in an unbelievable situation for a rookie. Like, that team is proving to be exactly as exciting as we all thought they could be. Chet's been fantastic. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Corey, if Victor's floating around 20 a game, I mean, it's a very elite company when you look back in history of players that have won Rookie of the Year that average 20 a game. You get into LeBron, Shaq, like those big names. And then, of course, shout out legend Tyreek Evans. But if Victor's floating around 20 a game and almost 10 boards, do we care how the Spurs play? Is he just going to get pumped as like, hey, look at what he did with their situation? Because I feel like this is a stat award. Like, this is something that you lean towards stats compared to just wins and losses.
Yeah, I think that's a fair perspective given the history of the award. But rarely do you find yourself in a situation like this where you do have somebody who I think has comparable statistics, right? I mean, Chet's only going to be a couple of points off from whatever Victor is, except he's doing it on way more efficient numbers. He's doing it in situations that matters. He hits that, incredible fall away three to send the game into overtime against the Warriors, right? He's doing it in big moments. He's stepping up to the plate. Like, I think the basketball world knew he was capable of doing. So I think when you have those moments on your resume and the numbers are somewhat comparable, I think those are going to be the things that stand out in the minds of voters come the end of the year, especially because, I think Victor is probably not going to be playing in as many games down the stretch, just, given the Spurs aren't going to have anything to play for except for draft position. Granted, not that matters much in this particular draft. We'll get into that later, I'm sure. To me, like, anything Victor does is gravy. We see all these amazing things. We're not surprised by it. We all loved him. We all had him first on the board. He's certainly a generational prospect. But the Spurs are a long way off. And so it's a little bit easier to walk into 20 points per game, kind of doing whatever you want, experimenting in different ways than it might be for Chet to break out of the offense when Chet's actually got something to play for.
Metcalf, final thoughts, anything?
Yeah, and I do think what really sets Chet apart, I think Corey's point of him doing or producing similar numbers in a much higher, or in an environment with much higher expectations, should factor in a lot. And the defensive stuff with both these guys is insane. Their block rates, their steal rates. I mean, Victor's block rate is in the 98th percentile. His steal rate's in the 88th percentile. Chet's block is in the 91st. His steals in the 54th. What's really setting them apart right now is the offensive stuff, where Chet's shooting 44% from three, 64.5 effective field goal rate. When we look at Wemby's 27% from three, 47.3 effective field goal rate. The shot's not there yet for him. He was super streaky all last year. I think some people really expected him to come in like shooting like Kevin Durant right off the jump. That was never the case with him. The idea of him being a shooter is there. The actual process and the results, not quite there yet. So I know Wemby's incredible. I think he's going to be probably a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. But right now, Chet is edging him out for me, and just the kind of more ready to compete and ready to produce on both ends of the floor.
Well, speaking of getting, Mr. Wembanyama a point guard, let's talk college hoops. This is what we do, boys. So let's have some fun. College hoops, opening months of the season. We got some exciting games coming up soon, very soon. Friday, Kansas playing UConn. Everyone's going to be watching that one. But, this has been a draft class that is getting a little bit scary for some folks. People are getting a little intimidated by the lack of a surefire number one guy. I think the three of us are right in that conversation. We're excited about this class, but we have questions. Corey, I'm starting this with you. Who the hell do we get excited about? Who could be number one when we're talking about just college basketball prospects? We got Jacoby Walter, who is impressed. Stephon Castle, obviously from UConn's been out for a little bit with an injury, but he's supposed to come back soon. Who do we get excited about?
I mean, me personally, I'm excited about Stephon Castle. As far as who I'm still taking number one. I mean, you look at the archetype of big, strong, skilled, switchable guys, that fits Castle to a T. Obviously, we haven't seen as much of him. He's been hurt. I saw UConn live last week and unfortunately didn't get to see him play. I'm going to see them again. I hope when he comes back to New York City to play UNC, he returns for that game, because I want to see him play under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden against a legit team. But I think based off what I had seen previous, he's still a guy that I'm most excited about. Now, I think I speak for all of us. I love me some Jacoby Walter too. And, I think that we got to watch him for a week at Hoop Summit, and none of us walked away gushing over Jacoby Walter. He was a guy who just went in every day. He worked hard. He played a role. He was able to fit in. And I think that's benefited him coming into college, because, I think you can look at a guard like him and coming off the back of a success story like Keontae George and be like, oh, here's a shooting guard that could just go in and create his own shot and just fire away. And he's doing a little bit of that self-creation stuff, but he's also been willing to just like fly off motion and screens and, play off the ball. So, when I look at a class where it is a little scary out there up top, you're looking for a safety net. And Jacoby Walter, I think, provides that as a 6'5" long shooting guard that could shoot and defend. So I want to see him make more plays and get that aspect of his game going a little bit. I think that was one of the aspects of Keontae's game that we were a little bit surprised by early in the season in Baylor. So clearly it's not a system thing that's preventing him. And he had the flashes of that in his AAU days. So I want to see more of that. But I love Jacoby Walter. I love Stephon Castle. So let's get that dude back so we can actually make this a debate.
Yeah, I want to touch on Castle, Metcalf, before I throw it to you about Jacoby, because I know you're pumped to talk about him. ESPN had an article today. Gavoni and Jeremy Wu kind of hinted at Castle's returning potentially Friday against Kansas, or that upcoming match against North Carolina, which would be fantastic. They're obviously trying to play it smart. A couple reporters said that, Castle's just got to get the clearance from a surgeon. So I love him. He's my number one guy right now. Even the limited sample, I've seen exactly what I want to see from a 6'6" guy. Now I need to see more to be like banging the table to say he's my number one guy. But Jacoby's been awesome. Metcalf, he has been sensational. He's really impressed. I'm right there. I think a lot of us want to see a little bit more playmaking, but I think Corey put it perfectly, like almost a safety net where you just feel good if you got him kind of up there in the top 5, because I think what tools he could have. Have you been impressed? Is there any areas of concern? Is it just the playmaking? Where are you at with Jacoby?
I mean, his assist rate is now up to an extraordinary 4%. So, I mean, what's there to be concerned about? No, I've had Jacoby at 1 for a while now, and I feel good about it in this draft. I don't wouldn't feel great about it in almost any other draft, but his shooting, his scoring has been incredible. And it's not just the outside shot that's been on fire. Obviously, it has been. I mean, he's at like 48% on over 11 3-point attempts per 100 possessions. Really good numbers for both of those, obviously. But there's also a lot of versatility with him and efficiency with him getting to the line, where his free throw rate is at 65.5. The only other freshman in since 2008 to have a free throw rate that high and a 3-point attempt rate that high was Eric Gordon as a freshman at Indiana.
It's a good one.
Freshman Eric Gordon, before all the injuries, was a problem. Jacoby's over 61% true shooting percentage, over 69% effective field goal rate, 2.5 steal rate. The scoring efficiency's there. The versatility is there. I need to see that playmaking take another leap forward, but I feel really good about him at number one. I think Castle's the guy, though, where once UConn gets fully healthy, once they really get rolling at full speed again, that's the guy where it's like, I really think that him and Sarr will probably be the two names at the top come draft time who are really challenging for that number one pick.
Let's stay college. I got one more name I want to bring up. Isaiah Collier of USC. It's just been very, very popular with a lot of draft fans. I feel like at No Ceilings, that's who we're getting the most questions about. Like, why don't you guys move Collier up? I want to see what you guys think. Corey, we'll start with you. From what I've watched, he's exactly what we were expecting. I think it's what we saw at Portland. Just a bulldog in transition. He's physical. He's big size point guard, and there's a lot of talent, and he can get to the hoop when he wants, and defenders bounce off him. But I think the turnover rate is really just scaring the shit out of me. You know, sorry for the soft ears out there, but it's scaring me. It's really it's really terrifying, and I think it's something that we legit have to focus on moving forward. But if Collier can figure that out, I mean, it's almost a point with his game where I feel like his aggressiveness is great, but then you get that with it, and there's got to be kind of a level out part. Could he get back into this top 5, top 3 conversation if we fix that?
Well, I think he's already in that conversation. Yeah. We have the draft rankings at No Ceilings, and he's in the top 3 right now. So the general consensus in the community believes that he is that kind of player, and I think he's that kind of talent. Right. The season's long, so right now we're in a weird part of the schedule. It's all non-conference games. Some of the games, are against good opponents, some not. There's only so much we can learn. But how are these guys going to grow over the course of the year? And for Collier, that's what I want to see. I want to see if he is going to grow, because the kid has great vision. Like you said, he is a, freight train getting downhill, just bulldozing his way to the rim. He's got an awesome first step. He's strong. Our own Garbage Time Gim has compared him to Stephon Marbury, a modern day Stephon Marbury. And I think it's pretty apt comparison given the frame, the athleticism, and, the way that he operates. The main thing that I'm concerned about, because I think that, the turnovers as the game slows down, I think that stuff could get better. I'm still a little bit worried about the shot. And right now, the NBA, we know it's about shooting, right? We want guys who can make shots efficiently. I'll tell you, I'm about to do a Hoop Summit callback, so get your shots ready. During the game, during warmups, we're on the floor, and I'm trying to get a shot of each guy's shooting motion. It took me a while to get Isaiah Collier's video. Let's just say that, because we're not in the business of posting misses for that kind of thing. So I'm still worried about that shot, that consistency. I think that there's some stuff in the mid range, but that might not be a super efficient shot that NBA offenses go to. I'm still a believer that teams are going to go under on his shot consistently early in his career when he makes it to the NBA level. And while he's still going to be able to get downhill, given the spacing and his athleticism, it's going to be a little bit tougher. Paints are going to be a little bit more packed. So that combination of, is that decision-making going to improve with teams are going to be smart about forcing him to be, a shooter? I want to see how, that kind of stuff improves in the long term.
And before I go to you, Metcalf, he's been great. When you look at the numbers, he's been great. if you avoid one category. Like he's averaging 18.2 points, 3.2 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.3 steals, shooting splits of 52.9, 41.2, 76.9. But 3-point shot, like Corey said, it's looked solid, but it's still a concern for me because he's only attempting 2.8 threes a game. I've got questions about it. Like, is this a hot start that's going to start leveling out to being more realistic? But 5.3 turnovers. Metcalf, I mean, where are you at with Collier? I will say he has impressed me with the playmaking and just how quickly he's gotten off to this impressive start. Like, he has some drives like there where you're just like, my goodness. And then there's just some mistakes that I do think Corey's onto something. I think things will slow down and those will water out. But where are you at with him, Metcalf?
So I've actually moved him up a ton.
But
I mean, I think that speaks more to where I originally had him than how I actually feel about him. And it's the shot has impressed me. I'm still not sure if I buy it, but it's been going
it's a long
in.
season.
They're like 41% from 3, but it's 17 attempts. So, that's not exactly a sample that I'm sprinting to the bank with. That turnover rate is just brutal. 29.9. He's doing basically everything I kind of thought he would, where he's getting to the rim whenever he wants. His vision and creativity and passing out of that is exactly what we saw in person. And against college defenders, that's kind of the competition that I expect him to feast against, where he's going to put up big numbers. It wouldn't surprise me if he averages almost 18 and 8 or somewhere in that neighborhood by the end of the year. What those shooting percentages look like come March, though, I think that's what's really going to be the kind of deciding factor in where I end up ranking him and how I really feel about him. So currently I'm cautiously optimistic about the shot because he's been pretty confident with it. He's been taking step back threes and, pull up mid-range stuff at the elbow. So he seems like he's confident in it. The mechanics still are kind of funky and kind of gross, but it's currently going in. Whether that continues through December, who knows? And I'm a little skeptical, but if it does, then that's when I'm really going to have to start asking myself some questions about how high could he go? Because like Corey, I do think the turnover stuff will clean itself up at least a little bit because it's tough to get much worse than it currently is. Top 5.
I've been impressed. He's impressed.
I also think it's going to be dependent on who is actually getting the top picks. I mean, in this draft more than ever, we just talked vaguely about the San Antonio Sohan experiment that is going to, go down in infamy, right? Like, this is a guy that the Spurs are going to look at. They might look at another guy from overseas as well, potentially to fill that void. But there are, teams that need that playmaker, that engine to run their offense. So, I think it's going to be totally team dependent, but if you have already like strong guard play, you're probably going to look elsewhere in a draft like this, where I think the talent at the top is, very close together and bunched up. So yeah, it's all how it shakes out at the end of the year.
Let's talk some more. Let's round off the first episode of Review That with a little trip abroad. Pair of prospects, really, really impressing. I know each of you are high on. I'm right there with you guys on both of them, but I want to talk about it. Let's start with Nikola Topic. Just really talented Serbian point guard. I don't know if a player has had as hot of a start with this class and helped their stock as much as he has. I mean, he's potentially a top 10 guy right now. I know we're trying to warm up Metcalf to, be a fan of Serbia, but we'll see if that comes around. Corey, I want to start with you because I feel like you're banging the drum for Topic as a potential top 5 guy. Like, is this a dark horse for getting in that top 3? Is this legit? Is this a small sample size that's going to water down, or is this a holy crap, this could be a franchise point guard?
He might be the number 1 guy on my board by the end of this draft cycle. I look, he's 6'6".
Is about to blow up. This is great. No.
Look, I'm searching for anybody to love at the top because the cupboard's so bare right now. But when I watch Nikola Topic play basketball, I start feeling stuff down low. I mean, the dude.
Pause.
Yeah. I mean, he can hoop. Right? He's weird. He's funky. I compared him to like Serbian Bob Cousy because he's like a little bit stiff looking when he dribbles the ball, but he's also oddly bendy and flexible. But the way that he gets into the paint, I think Collier is the only prospect in this class that can match him. It's a very different way, but the guy's finishing almost 70% in the half court. He does it with touch. He does it with finishing on angles. His footwork is kind of unbelievable. And just his spatial awareness of where guys are that he could slither through, it's really special. And then you add on to the fact that the kid is a stud playmaker. Like, he can make almost any pass in the book, live dribble, either hand, cross court. He paints the corners. He can push in transition. I think the shot is believable to me. He's not a dead eye shooter by any stretch of the imagination, but we're talking about a 6'6" guard that offensively, I think, can really run your team. Now, we could talk about the defense. I won't. But we could if we wanted.
Not much
it's
to talk about.
There's not much to write home about. But if he's actually going to be a legit engine and be able to, run your team and give you a top tier offense, and I think he's capable of that potentially, we know that means that your defense isn't going to be as important. And at 6'6", you're at least going to be able to hide him a little bit easier than you might a guy who's like 6'1", 6'2". But offensively, he's the real deal, man. He's got stuff to his game. He really does. He's hard to guard. He's playing in a grown man league, and shout out Mike Schmitz. I remember talking about this league when it came to Nikola Jovic, and he was like, the thing you got to realize, this dude is playing in a league of dudes that are huge. So he's 6'10", and he doesn't even look big. So he's doing this against monstrous size. I think Topic is the real deal, and I think we should start getting on board. I think it's going to pick up steam. He's going to be a top 5 guy by the end of this draft.
I mean, here's my thing with Topic. I think this draft is having more questions about everyone than we're finding out. Like, I keep my hot take is saying, if you're wanting a star in this draft, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. But if you're looking for a very good complementary piece, you got something. This is the draft. I think if you're a team that's rebuilding and you get another piece alongside someone, you're going to have fun with this. But Topic, are we... Metcalf, I get the outside shot concerns. I know you're steaming out of your ears like a cartoon character, but I feel like Topic brings so much to the table when you check boxes of like, what can he do on a basketball court? Okay, 6'6", great size. He's got handles. He gets into the paint. He has unbelievable vision. He's great feel. Is that checking enough boxes that we should be like, okay, well, maybe the shot's not perfect. And I think his last 3 games, he's like 5 for 19 or something, and he's 30% on the year. So yes, Metcalf, I've been doing my homework too. But is there enough good stuff with a 6'6" guy that we should be more excited and we should be buying into this working? Like, does he bring enough to an NBA floor, or are the concerns legit, Metcalf? This is your time. Go crazy.
Yes to all of it. No, so I've come around on Topic. I have him up at 10 now, and part of that is due to the rest of the class. But Corey referenced Mike Schmitz earlier, and I think is a couple years ago, but an interview that he did with someone talking about his process, and he's said one of the first things he always does is try and identify if a prospect has an elite skill. And Topic does. He has at least 2 of them where he is an elite at rim finisher, where he's taking the majority of his shots at the rim and finishing around 70%, which is absurd in that league, let alone any league, but especially this one, and especially for a guy who's purely a below the rim finisher. His scoring touch and craft and creativity there is absolutely absurd. And then the playmaking. He's probably the best playmaker in this class. So when you have both those offensive skills, especially in this class, it's like, okay, that's probably enough for you to be at minimum a top 10 guy. The shot, I don't buy. It is what it is, but I mean, 30.9% from 3, 14.3% on pull-up 2s, only 1 of 7. It's slow. It's a little funky. I think he has great scoring touch, but it doesn't seem to be translating to the shot. And as the volume goes up on those 3-point attempts, the percentage is going down. So I'm skeptical, but at the end of the day with him, I'm not sure it's going to matter. The defense is non-existent with him. Again, I'm not sure it's going to matter because the rim pressure, the ability to control every moving part of an offense is so impressive for someone his age, doing it in that professional league with those seasoned veterans that at their size, that physicality. I mean, and with a draft with so many question marks, he just kind of keeps providing answers of what he excels at by the game.
I think you put it perfectly. I mean, we're always, when scouting, evaluating these guys, we're like, what is their NBA skill set? Like, that's the first thing we try to figure out. And Topic immediately to jump out when it comes to his feel, his playmaking, vision. Like, if we dropped him on the San Antonio Spurs right now, the team probably looks drastically different, even with how young he is and everything. I'm just saying, for his feel and what he can do and set up players like Victor. And I don't know, just very, very interesting. Any other thoughts, Corey?
We have some breaking NBA news.
Oh, little shams bomb.
Shams bomb. Mark Cuban is selling a majority stake of the Dallas Mavericks to Miriam Adelson and casino tycoon Adelson family for valuation in range of $3.5 billion American dollars in one of the most unique setups in NBA history. Cuban keeps shares in the team and full control of basketball operations.
Not a bad little profit for a $285 million purchase.
Yeah, we can roll with this. Wait, so if someone came to No Ceilings and said, "Hey, you guys I'm going to pay you $3 billion, but you get to keep doing it. You get to keep doing it all the time." Sold. I mean, is that the best trade ever?
Seems like a very sharky move. So congrats to
he just left Shark Tank too, right? Cuban just announced he was leaving Shark Tank. So something's up. Mark's just, he's just saying, "Hey, I'm out. I'm going to go be full-time fan." I love that for him. That's a great deal.
He worked really hard. Congratulations to Mark Cuban.
Mark. Wow. $3
I think that
billion
really
with
means
a B, right? With a B?
With a B.
With a B. Yeah.
Good for you.
Good for him. He was a great owner for the league. And, obviously he's going to stay involved because he keeps full control of basketball operations. So, but to answer your question, yeah, love Nikola Topic. I think that, if you're the San Antonio Spurs, he's a guy that you seriously consider. If you are maybe the Detroit Pistons, maybe you look for, something in a different direction that fits your roster a little bit more. But, that's a decision that we're going to know more about in June when the lottery balls settle and guys start, settling into, a more defined draft range.
Boys, I think that's it. I think this is a good one. I want to say thanks to everyone for checking out the first episode of Review That. We're going to be having these throughout the year, talking about NBA storylines and draft conversations to catch you up on all the big news. But please subscribe, help us out on YouTube, and also go check out our website, NoCeilingsNBA.com. We've got free content Monday through Friday. We've also launched paid content this year with No Ceilings Plus. Go check that out. We've got plenty of goodies. But for myself, Metcalf, and Corey, you guys stay at it, and thank you for joining us. We will talk to you soon. Peace.